Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic on Totem Pole Sports. I got Coach David Harrison, the hold wheel, the offensive line guru, here tonight, and so excited. I met Coach down at the AFCA convention in Charlotte, and I told him that I was probably the most penalized coach of all time on any level. Anybody that's watching this that's ever seen LC Bird play, we get a lot of holding penalties. So he told me he had the invention that would help our holding penalties. So I said, man, I got to get this guy on. So, Coach, tell everybody out there tonight a little bit about yourself.
Yep. So David Harrison, native of Charlotte, North Carolina, graduated from West Mecklenburg High School, but played college ball at Elon University. Played there, was a 4-year starter under then Coach Pete Limbo, who's now the special teams coordinator and assistant head down at USC. But he was my head coach in college and played for him 4 years under Rich Skrowski, and was also coached by John Strollo. So I was really developed by some guys that have clearly made their imprint in the offensive line position. So those guys kind of really helped lay that foundation for my development. And then that kind of led to me, after my playing days, being able to get into coaching. And what that led to was me starting off as a high school coach in the Charlotte area, which is where I'm from, like I said. And so I got back into it from that perspective. And when I was in coaching, probably about a couple of years at that point, I started to feel like it was a void in what I saw from the offensive line perspective. And it wasn't a disrespect to the coaches that were coaching those guys on the other side of the field, but it was more of like we got to spend more time in the true development of these guys because they play such a critical role in the success of a team. And you're looking at it from the perspective of if these guys don't have a well-oiled machine, which is 5 bodies moving as one interchangeable part, you know what I'm saying? Having that ability to work as one body in the grand concept of the offense and of the team, then nobody's going to have success, right? The running backs that we love to celebrate that often get put in the paper can't do their job without the big guys opening up holes up front. The receivers can't make catches on the edge and have these spectacular plays that they make without protection up front. The quarterback can't sit back in the pocket and be able to do what he does, manipulate the defense, get time ball to be able to make the plays that he made without those guys up front. So when you look at the importance of the position and then me having such instrumental O-line coaches in my development really helped push me towards saying, you know what, I got to be able to take this to another level. I got to be able to open up a way to fill that void in the lack of fundamental development and offensive alignment. And that's what created Hold. 2017, we started it again after some years of being in high school coaching, and it started off with one kid, Marion McLeod. I could tell you in a short story, just the full circleness of it for me. Being that kid that was from Charlotte, maybe growing up in scenarios where I didn't have a skill-specific type of guy that I could work with and really get the fundamentals of what I was going to need for the next level, really made it a challenge for me when I got to college. And so when I started training and working with him as the first kid that I had when he was in the 7th grade, it gave me an opportunity to right the wrongs from my childhood. You get what I mean? It was like that second chance to be like, hey, if you could go back and be in the 7th grade and do it knowing what you know now, how would you do it? And I reluctantly got into it because, again, I thought of myself as more of the traditional O-line coach. And I tell you, that opportunity came from my AD. It was his cousin. The father was looking for some training, and he took a chance on me. And honestly, it started there. And now, 2023, that same kid is a freshman enrolled at Elon University on a full scholarship. So the first kid I ever trained in the 7th grade, who dad just believed in somebody and gave me a chance to show him what I could do, is now on full scholarship at my alma mater, where I played 4 years and was an All-American at. And so to see him do it and to be there on the day when he earned the scholarship, it was a special thing. I mean, I share this real quick. And again, this just explains the story of how special this thing is, what we have. And I remember standing there with his dad on the field, and we're just sitting there. And at that point, he's having a private workout, you know, just him and the coaches, me and his dad. His dad is standing on one part of the field. I'm standing there behind the coaches. And to see the work that had been done since the kid that was in the 7th grade to now he's a senior in high school, standing in front of a head coach and a position coach at a Division I institution. And they're asking him to perform drills, some that he know and some that he don't know. And to see how he responded in that moment, where if he wasn't prepared, it could have been overwhelming. And he flourished in the moment. And I said, wow, that's the process. That's what it looks like when you take the time to mature a kid from a developmental standpoint, when you take time to mature a kid from a skill development standpoint, when you really invest into uh, more than just the skill that it takes, but really into the full spectrum of what it takes, the toughness that it takes, the discipline that it takes, the tenacity that it takes, the selflessness that it takes to really maximize the position is just a special thing. So that's how it all started. And that's what pushes the passion.
So if there's a young coach watching this, or a young player, or maybe a dad whose kid plays offensive line, what's the first 3 things? Because after it gets after 3, I ain't got that big of a brain, coach. What's the first 3 things that you would work with that kid on, or what would you teach them?
Yep. And so for me, I always start with the fundamentals of a proper stance. You know, it has to go from there to me. I mean, I'm not going to go into the steps and the hand placements and the body leverage. I mean, the body posture and none of those things until I get the stance corrected. So first and foremost, I would address the stance. After that, I'm going to go into body posture. After I go into body posture, I'm going to go into hands. And that's kind of the way that I do things. Just because I've seen it be beneficial for me to do it that way. Now, again, everybody has different ways of doing it. And that's one of the great things about offensive line play, especially with those that are respected in the industry, is that there are other ways to do things. But what I found is that if something works for me, and I've seen it work for other people, and the development of it consistently sees the results that you want to see, then you're doing something right. And so I found that in the development of guys, especially that I've worked with, starting with a proper stance, after that going into proper posture, because again, if I don't have my posture in a certain position, that's going to limit my effectiveness to be able to move. All right, so now whether it's a run block or whether it's a pass pro, that's going to delay how long it actually should take if I was in a position where I could best utilize getting the way I'm supposed to go. So if I'm in a pass pro situation, I'm not trying to be too top heavy because, again, I got to get out of my stance. But at the same time, I don't want to be too much of a forward leaning guy in the run game to where I'm got my hips behind me, my eyes are down, and now I can't adjust the movement. So you got to understand what it's like to play on that 45-degree plane if you're an offensive lineman and you're trying to run block. And you also got to understand what it's like to try to play with them shoulders back in more of a 90-degree angle when you pass pro. Just trying to keep yourself in the best possible position to do everything you need to do. Then the hands, the last part, the hands. The hands are obviously the part that you got to start to talk about because, again, we don't want to incorporate the feet and not have the hands active at the same time. And so when you talk about feet, that goes into that whole part of stance. And then when you talk about body posture, you talk about core. And then those hands are just putting you in position to get ready to strike.
My offensive line coach in high school was Matt Bland. He played at WVU for Mike Jacobs. And Mike Jacobs was the O-line coach for Orlando Pace. And Coach Bland always taught, get off the ball, stay on your block, and be nasty.
Yeah.
Has the game changed? Is blocking people illegal? I mean, the pancake blocks, the driving people off the field, the doing a headstand on guys. I mean, is that long gone, or is that still a place in the game, or is it more basketball like blocking?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's based off of a couple of different factors. number one, the basketball reference is more based off of those guys that you see when they start doing that position blocking. You'll see that a lot in the NFL. You know, a lot of guys in the NFL do it, and you'll see a lot in college. And because and they'll do it because of the concept of the offense based off of certain plays will tell them that, hey, you don't have to make a kill shot. We just need you to put your body in between this and that to protect the launch point of the ball or to protect where this ball is going to be inserted at. And so they teach them from the concept of the play to really position block. And so guys end up doing it naturally, and it turns into kind of like a lazy habit if you're not careful. And I understand that from a standpoint of seeing that and seeing those things happen in the game. But me, I played the game real aggressive. When I played the game, uh, I was trying to physically impose my will on another man. All right, this fragile form you see me in today, I'm in that 220 frame. But like I told you, when I played Division I football, I was 315. You know, I was benching 525. I was
Mm-hmm.
power cleaning 370. I was squatting 800. So I was in a space physically where I was able to impose my will based off of just my pure strength. And then adding that component of technique, which my coaches did a great job of teaching me, it allowed me to dominate people. And so when I played the game, that was my intention, to dominate the guy across from me, to physically impose my will. And so I say that to say I still coach it like that. I still coach it like that. I still coach it uh, in a way where I emphasize the importance of finishing blocks violently. I still do that. But the way that it has changed is now the specifics of fire off the ball, get feet in the ground, and move the guy has turned into, hey, keep a Z in the knee. Make sure you stay on your insteps. Hey, get the air out of your feet. It's those type of things that have started to become more specialized as to why you are able to see it from a different angle now. And so now as a coach, you're getting more specific with those guys and your directives so you see a better result in those guys. Like again, if you looked at the game yesterday, you saw some really uh, unorthodox style of running a quarterback sneak that the Eagles do. And it's very effective. And obviously, it's a combination of that rugby style mixed with football. But again, that's what I'm talking about, how the game is evolving. The athletes are more athletic now. They're stronger, they're faster, and they are in better position to do more unique things. So you will see ridiculous athleticism where it looks like a cat is literally playing basketball because the power forward is the new tackle. They want them like that. That's how they're recruiting them. I train them up on all levels. And right now, when they're talking about tackles, you know, the ACC type of schools, they're looking at guys that are around that 6'6", 6'7" for tackles now, and they like them a little leaner now. So the 240 tackle, which is the old power forward in basketball, he's the new tackle. The old tackle, which was the tall, big guy, he's the new guard. They bumped him inside. So the old tackle, who's big and tall, he's now bumped inside to a guard. So you got taller guards, and now those shorter or really average height guys are all going to the center. But Kelsey is showing there's a unique need for it, and it really provides a benefit when you have a guy that has a leverage like he has. I mean, outstanding stuff. I think that everybody in the O-line community was definitely impressed with some of the things they were able to do out there.
So Jeremy Spear, coach, he was my ninth grade offensive line coach. He played at Fork Union and played at LC Bird. He said that's how it should be taught. He's old school, coach.
Yeah.
This is like Michigan with like Coach Schembeckler.
Yeah.
All right, Lee Thomas. He wants to know what's some great drills to use for D-line and O-line. That's what everybody always asks about drills. What's your philosophy on drills? Lee, what level do you coach? Do you coach rec ball or high school ball? But what's your philosophy on drills, coach?
Yep. So obviously, as a guy that trains, I do quite a few drills. As a guy that coached, I did quite a few drills then. I've always done drills. The thing about drills to me is that they have to be able to apply to some type of concept of what they actually do. So I'm a huge fan of replicating situations that mimic what you would do in an actual game, or teaching a skill that would allow them to better combat the actual move that they may see. Um, Functional movements. And when I say functional, meaning things that apply to the actual game and the position in terms of offensive line.
Yeah, so Lee said my nephew plays rec ball. He just turned 10. This is his second year. So what are some things he should be focusing on, Coach? I mean,
I give you
get
I give you a
stance, run
couple.
block, pass block.
I give you a couple. Number one, obviously the stance. Now, when you're talking about stance, what position did you say he played?
I think he just plays O line, Coach.
Okay.
I don't know
All
if
right.
it's too
So,
specific.
all right, no problem. When you're talking about guards, and I asked that question for a reason. If the kid is a taller kid that probably plays on the edge and he plays tackle, I'll talk about that relationship of feet being toe to heel in terms of brace foot to post foot. And I would talk about the feet being slightly wider than the shoulders. Hips, you want to keep a Z in the knees and try to keep those, try to keep your elbows in terms of where you want them to be at, attach them to your body, with your elbows right at your belly button length. So that's what I would teach in terms of the first thing of a stance. If he was a guard, the only thing that would change in that scenario is that instead of the feet being toe to heel, I would put them toe to instep. So I would keep the feet still slightly wider than your shoulder, sink the hips, and just start drills out of a 2-point stance. Now he's gonna realistically play in a 3-point stance, but everybody plays in a 2-point stance once the ball is snapped. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes, sir.
drilling in a 2-point stance is an effective way to work on different principles. Now, from that standpoint of that stance, which we already discussed, I will work a basic foot fire drill. Now, I use the term foot fire. I got that from Coach Jim McNally when I did work with him one year at the FBU camp that he had in Charlotte. That was probably like 6, 7 years ago. But he was the one that did a drill called the foot fire drill, and what it emphasized was guys driving insteps in the ground in a fast pace. And so over the years, I've worked with that myself, continued in that philosophy, and also incorporated things where I started to add different terminology to help the guys understand the importance of the footwork, like talking about the emphasis of having violent feet. So when I say violent feet, that helps you understand a little bit more of the intentionality I want you to be forcing through the ground, because the ground is going to give you power if you're generating force through a bent knee position and driving those insteps in the ground. You're going to generate power through the ground. But if I don't tell you that and you think foot frequency, then you might think the better I'm a block is based off of the most amount of steps I can get in the ground at one time after another. You're going to be having feet that just go like this, and that's not powerful. So if I tell you to have violent feet, but get them in and out of the ground as quick as you can, you're going to think more heavy footed, like do, 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 as opposed to. I don't know if my sound effects helped, but I tried to use it to make the point get driven in.
So Lee says that he plays defensive tackle. I always wonder this. I always ask offensive line coaches this. Some defensive linemen, I don't know if it's on the NFL level, but usually even when I watch highlights of Sue or I watch highlights of Aaron Donald or even Warren Sapp, the greats, they make the most plays when they're actually not being blocked. They're just like shooting a gap, and
Correct.
They're getting in there. So
I got one even better for you. Outside of that point, the next way that they make the most amount of plays that you'll see in highlights is off of bad technique.
They can do whatever they want.
Bad technique looks so bad. You get what I'm saying? And then everybody celebrates the great move that the defender made. Oh my God, look at that spin move he did. Not realizing that the tackle overset. Looking at the tackle's hat placement. Understanding the fact that he should have stayed on the inside hand. Making sure that when the hands come out, that again he's striking to the outside number, or he making sure that he maintain that inside leverage with his position in terms of his body posture. There's a whole bunch of things you'll see: clicking the heels, turn the shoulders, late hands, hat placement going down. But those be the clips that they be showing now. They very rarely, and I ain't even seen one, where they show a clip of those guys getting a play made on us where we had good technique too. I want to see good against good.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, a great setter beat a good rush.
Yeah. So, like, if you were coaching the defensive line against offensive line, I know they're the enemy, but if you were, would you teach the defensive line to punch and to engage? Because my philosophy kind of is with defensive line, they're usually smaller. And if you engage with those big offensive linemen, then you're going to be giving something up. You're going to be getting knocked back. So, I mean, have you seen like slanting teams, teams that have, which one's harder to block?
You want to know the truth?
Yes.
The hardest thing for offensive linemen to go against is small, quick gap fillers. The guys that can slant, angle, you can make a living off of that. I mean, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be going against, especially when we start talking about like a high school level, you're going against a group of guys that are not very, developed like that from a skill-specific standpoint, dealing with most, offensive lines. And so now you got guys that already are questionable in their technique, and now they got quicker, faster guys that are going away from where they want them to line up and go, starting off in one gap and going to another, starting off in the B, slanting to the A, starting the A, slanting to the B. Man, change of direction is a killer to offensive linemen. That's why the ones that can change direction do the best. You look at the greats, they can change direction on the drop of a dime. Look at Kelsey. Look at Trent Williams. Trent Williams, as big as he is, he can change directions on the drop of a dime. His body control, it goes back to core strength. That's why I teach it the way I teach it.
Yeah, so the guy that coached me, he was the best offensive line coach in Virginia. And, he went to the defensive side of the ball, and he would always use undersized, fast guys, guys that maybe weren't getting on the field at corner or outside backer, and he taught them to slant and avoid.
So if you want to know, what's going to give you the most success in general against offensive lines, unless you're going against a good group that know how to move, is movement. Movement.
Maybe I shouldn't be talking so much on here, Coach. Jeremy Spear, who was my 9th grade coach, he says, with being old school, do you think these big guys are losing leverage by not being in a 3-point stance?
They're not losing leverage in a situation where this is the only time they're losing leverage. When it comes to losing leverage, it's because we're saying that in a 3-point stance, they can put more weight on their fingertips, which will allow them to fire out. The only time that that's a true benefit is when they're doing like a gap scheme type of block where they're going in a direction and it don't matter what the defensive guy is doing. Because if they have to adjust to movement, it's not giving them much of an advantage to add more weight on their fingertips, in my opinion. If I got to run a zone play, then being in a 3-point stance ain't truly giving me a true benefit like that in terms of like putting more weight on my fingertips, because I still got to react to the movement of this dude. You know what I'm saying? If I'm the right guard and we're running 4 down inside zone to the right, and I'm the right guard, and I'm working, let's just say, a double team with the center. Okay, my center's coming towards the 3, and my 3 technique goes inside as the right guard. I'm not supposed to be able to turn back on that 3 technique, but naturally, because you see a guy that started in your gap and he goes away from your gap, if you're not trained to know that movement, you're naturally gonna turn. Trust me, I struggled with that for a while getting to college because I never ran zone in high school. And naturally, when you're used to man blocking schemes, you lock on to people. So when you have somebody in your gap pre-snap, that's who you think you're blocking. So in a scheme where you do that, like a gap scheme where you run like power or something like that, and everybody got a gap and you going down, then yes. But anytime you go be in a situation where they got to adjust to movement, it's going to put you in more of a risk in a 3-point stance anyway. because they are gonna put too much weight on their fingertips. I personally, and I mean this, and I ain't making this up now. In college, when I played for Coach Skrowski and Coach Strollo, we never went in a 3-point stance, and I played guard. I played in a 2-point stance my whole career. Then the only time I got in a 3-point stance really was like not even on the one. We was in a 2-point stance. So I say that to say it's a way to and the 2-point stance really gives you more versatility, honestly.
And y'all pounded the ball. I mean, y'all weren't air raid. Y'all were pounding the ball.
We was running the ball. We was real physical at the guards. Like we had thicker, strong guards. Like that was like a qualification. You have to be able to root people out of there at the guard position in that type of offense. And then you got athletic tackles. Both our tackles were really athletic guys, and they did great with screens and keeping the pocket wide.
So Lee Thomas says they have his nephew shooting the A gap, but they have him in a 4-point stance. I like 3-point because he can fire off the ball way quicker. I mean, you see D linemen in a 4-point getting off in a pass rush. Matt Baker says you can read the fingers.
Yeah.
Lee Thomas says, but when we get to the backfield, he could be out of control. He makes the play sometimes, but it'd be more like he's trying to arm tackle instead of break it down. So he's just running too far into the backfield and he's creating gaps.
I ain't a D-line coach, but I'm gonna tell you what he's making. I'm gonna tell you what the issue is, and just because it happens on the other side of the ball too. His steps are too long when you're talking about breaking down. Like he has to know how to cut down that gate. His gate is if he's getting in the backfield and overrunning it every time, that means that he's keeping the same like gait. You know what I'm saying? Like his spread of his feet.
He's got to keep a good base.
You got to get there and then get under control. Now don't slow down. You got to get there, get to a certain point. And I don't know how they coach him on that side of the ball, but I just know if you're saying that that's one of the issues, that has to do with his ability to break. That ain't got nothing to do with the stance because after he took 2 or 3 steps in the stance, that part is over with.
If you have a D line that's getting off the ball, and maybe like there's a TFL.
Yeah. I mean,
are you a big believer in hard counts or freeze counts to slow them down? Or
yeah, I'm definitely big in trying to use stuff like the cadence to slow them down. But I'm also a believer in making those guys run. Right? Like I'm not about to sit there and let you keep barking at me for forever. And you want to be the big bad wolf? Let's see how good a shape the big bad wolf is in. And then let's see if you're the big bad wolf. Because I'm gonna test your heart just from a willingness to dang on want to do what it takes to get in the play. If you don't want to chase down the ball, then okay, we're gonna see where you're gonna be at, bam. And after you start chasing that ball down again, now we're gonna be able to say, all right, now let's go at them a little bit. So I mean, it's one of them things to where we'll see.
Yeah. So Lee says, so how do I teach that he's back there every time? I mean, dude, penetration. I mean, if your D lineman is getting penetration in the backfield, he's got to make a play. So I mean, he's 10 years old. I mean, I would say don't overcoach it.
Right.
I mean,
he's still young.
Yeah, just get to the ball. One thing is don't run up the field. Once you get in the backfield, he's got to go flat, left or right. Once he gets to the heels of that offensive line.
I'll tell you the thing I'll be telling him. Right now, you've already established the fact that he's dominant. You talked about the fact that he's already in the backfield. So right now, he's already establishing the fact that he's dominant over his peers. So I'm saying at this point, you got to keep such a rule on, such a grind on him to where he understands now you got to make the play. Like you back there, now you got to make the play. Because you're going to have to create leverage over him to keep him humble because he's already better amongst his peers. I'm just saying, like, if you think about it from a leadership perspective, you're saying that he's back there. He just ain't making a play. That part can be taught. So you got to start giving him leadership responsibility now at 10. I'm telling you that from somebody that's in it and somebody that's did it. That like if he's acting like an alpha male amongst other males, give him more responsibility to help him understand the importance of elevating his game to the next level.
Or and one thing I'm thinking, coach, is like that kid is in the backfield so fast, you might want to back him up. Put him
Yeah,
where Ray Lewis was,
I'm
and tell him
telling you.
go get the football.
Right.
I,
He that fast. Right. We got him out of position anyway.
yeah, just tell him go get the football.
Right.
Jeremy Spears says, and they do this to teams that are in high school that can really pound the ball. Sometimes, D linemen will just, crab or,
Yeah.
just submarine trying to in a hole.
Mm-hmm.
What do you teach against that? I know we used to call it the root hog, where you
Yeah.
try to get them up and turn them over.
You can't do nothing against that. What you do against that is hope that your coach see that and call the right play to get the ball on the edge. That's
Yeah.
the do. It ain't no real way to coach against that stuff, because we talk about guys start diving and stuff like that. You just telling your guys to protect your bodies. That's what I tell them. I'm be honest. In them situations, I'd be more worried about that type of stuff, because again, when guys start diving, bad things start happening in the offensive lineman, and that's always one of them subjects. You don't want nothing to happen to nobody. So
I mean, yeah, that team is just basically that team's
they
throwing
just
their
so
flag.
right,
I
right,
mean, they don't
right.
think
Oh
they can
yeah, they done
stop you.
sold out. They done sold out. They
Yes.
you got them then.
We got to go around them. We'll toss or run a jet sweep or something.
Yeah, but they
So
should be
he
crowding
said,
the
yeah.
box. They should be crowding the box. So you should know something like that is coming.
So he says he's tripping over his own feet. He probably just needs to get more coordinated.
Yeah.
Your nephew. So coach, when you're teaching pass protection,
Yeah.
you teach a post foot, you teach keeping your inside foot, leverage. What else do you emphasize on pass pro? Is it
Yeah.
more of a punching, or is it more of a punch and lock onto
Yeah.
the guy?
All right, so it's a few different parts to that question. I'll start with the set. All right, so I'm gonna do a little quick coaching point right here. All right, the pass set is based off of the leverage of the defender. If I got a tighter defender, I don't have to kick very deep because of how tight he is, so I'm gonna kick very flat. On my second set, that's called my B set. So my A set is the first one, that's just flat. My B set is on a 45-degree angle. That's your deal when you got somebody about a foot to 2.5, 3 feet outside of you. That's when you want to kick on a B set angle. That's your 45-degree angle kick. So when you're thinking about the A set, it's half of the B. So that's about 22.5 degrees. I just got technical, but obviously when you're on the field, you can be able to demonstrate this a lot easier. All right, your last set is your vertical set, which is usually for tackles where you're setting straight back at a 90. So those are the pass sets. I say those because the leverage of the defender, like I said, dictates the set. So if I got a tight outside shoulder defender, I'm taking an A set, getting on it right now, pick it up, put it down. Shorter set, quicker hands, get on it quick. Aggressive in the pass protection. I don't want to give up any depth of the pocket. That's when I'm going to use that type of set. I got a defender that's a little bit wider, so I got to kick on a deeper angle because, again, the angles allow me to put his body in the framework of my feet. So when I kick on a 45 and I'm framing them a little bit easier, now I can be able to put myself in position to get ready to strike them once I beat them to the point of attack. On the C set, that's when I'll get vertical initially, just so that I can get the depth needed, and then I'm going to get back out on the angle to protect the width of the pocket. The way I teach it is guards and centers protect the depth, tackles protect the width, meaning they keep everything wide. That's what creates the pocket. And so that's the way I teach it from a standpoint of sets that you want to think about in terms of that. Now, when it comes to hand placements, it's different based off of what they're giving you. The defender can give you a variety of different body parts. They can give you a shoulder, they can give you the chest, they can give you the ribs, they can give you a hip, they can give you a back. So there's a lot of different things that a defender can give you. But what I found is that in general, a rule of thumb that I like to keep in mind, and again, it can change a little bit based off of who the personnel is. But if I have a full body rush, meaning I see a defender is running a line that's coming directly at me, I'm thinking I'm a two-hand strike guy. All right, I'm going to load up the most amount of force I can through my punch, and I'm going to try to shock the defender and get my paws on him on the way where it stops his rush. I'm going to try to sit down on it, and I'm going to try to gain inside leverage again, and I'm going to try to stay there. I don't want to take my hands off. Once I punch with that amount of power, I want to sit on it, lock my hands, and I want to create great posture with my chest and drop my hips. At that point, it just becomes a mirror drill. That's ultimately what it becomes if you do it that way. That's the best way for us to be able to block anybody as offensive linemen. If we can get in front of them and put their body in the framework of our feet and get our hands locked inside, that's the best way to treat it, because at that point it is legitimately a mirror drill with hand grip. It's a hand grip mirror drill. I got you locked in here and I'm moving my feet wherever you go. That's the best chance for any of us to survive. But then you got those opportunities where a guy's not rushing your whole body and maybe he's rushing your outside half. So maybe he's not rushing enough of you for you to get the two-hand strike. Now, if he's running a little bit wider, the two-hand strike may not be long enough, and it might put you in a position where you're least reaching and leaning. So now you might want to go in a situation where if he's rushing half body, where you work mixed hands, working a two-hand strike of high-low or 1-2 concepts, just giving him a different shock, because it also puts you in a position to not be as vulnerable, because you're not going with two hands at one time. You're going pop, pop. Does that make sense? It's also a good hand movement to use when you're trying to worry about guys that do spin moves inside, because it gives you the ability to mirror their body, and you'll be able to move your feet at the same time to get back in front of them. So that's another good hand placement to use. But then you also have the wide rushes. So when you got the wide guy that's not coming head up, he's not coming outside half, he's coming away from your body trying to avoid you. Those are going to be the situations where you got to use the single hand strike, because of his distance away from my body and my inability to use two, because one is longer than two. If I bring one out here, it's long. The minute I bring two in, that shortens one. So one is longer than two. So when I got the wider defender that's rushing up the field, I'm a single hand strike him initially just to alter the rush with the hands. And then I'm looking to try to lock on that second hand at some point. But once I lock on, and I mean punch, it's over. I do not take the hands off. I do not coach that. I coach major grip strength, and I coach major hand strength.
So, and I was getting ready to ask you how you coach that, but I think that has to do with the hold wheel. Coach Jeremy.
That was a perfect segment, wasn't it?
Yeah. Jeremy Spears got a question here. In pass pro against a four-man front, linebackers drop back. Should the center guard stay on a double team or take over the block to widen the pocket? I mean, we have slide, Coach. So, the center goes away from where the running back is, and we gap it. So, I mean, if we're sliding the protection to the right, the center's going to the right. He's got the A gap to the right. The right guard's got the B gap. If you have a guy in your A gap and you're the center, you were blocking that guy, and that guard can help with this left hand, correct? You want to go over half slide? I guess that's what Jeremy's asking about on half slide.
Yeah. So he wants us to go over the actual, like, how it's done.
He's talking about if you're playing center and the slide's going to the right, and let's say I'm playing right guard and we got a one technique, we got an A gap player there. The left guard is going to use his left hand to help on that A gap player. But his eyes are going to be in his B gap to his right, correct?
You said the left guard or the right guard? Because the right guard.
I was saying if the slide's going to the right, so yes, sir, the right guard.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the slide's going to the right. I'm a center. The right guard and 4 down. Me and the right guard have a inside shade like a 2-eye to the right. And so backside to the left guard side, they got a 3 and a 5, correct? And both of them guys are big on big. That's what we talking about?
Yes, sir.
So in a situation like that, this is what I always tell the guard in this situation. You don't have a true B gap threat right now, but your eyes are in the B and you give presence in the A. So what you don't want to do is kick to air. If you don't have an immediate threat in that B gap and you don't have one with that 2-eye without a backer up, just give presence inside with your eyes outside. That's keeping your eyes up for the linebackers that are at that 5-yard depth to make sure nobody's blitzing, but it's also allowing you to be able to help out the center. Because even though that's his guy and his gap, why not get a good double in there rather than kicking the air? Because if you kick the air, who you go block? If the 5 go outside of the tackle, then you go end up just sitting there kicking the air and blocking nobody. So what I like to do is say give presence in the A, keep your eyes in the B. That's how I coach it.
So, Coach, how do you coach the grip strength, the hand strength?
Yeah. So
leading into your invention, coach,
yeah,
the whole wheel.
So, the whole wheel, and I appreciate that little intro for it. Number one, I'll be remiss if I didn't shout that out. If you're interested in anything we're talking about today, especially from the standpoint of the whole wheel, please feel free to visit us on our website at wholebuilt.com, HOLDBUILT.com. And you can check us out. Also, our Instagram is whole 2017. So the at whole 2017, and then Twitter is at whole 2017, and then we have a whole wheel page on Instagram as well as the whole wheel. So I just wanted to shout that out. But yeah, the whole wheel is a device that I engineered specifically for offensive linemen. It's made as an octagon design. And the thing about it is that it allows you to work multiple hand placements, working from the two-hand wide strike to the inside two-hand strike to the mixed hands options with a high-low on the wheel. Because of its design, is unique in that way, and then it gives you the ability to be able to work all those different factors. On the back, it has a detachable plate holder, so you can add any universal weight on it. Anything ranging from a 5 to a 45 if you feel like you were strong enough. But I'm gonna tell you this: even when I work with the NFL guys, they don't put a 45 on there. So if you put the 45 on there, please send me the video of that, and I want to see it properly being used. But in all seriousness, it's one of those things that I originally created it for one reason, and soon started to see an even greater value for it. I originally wanted to really build up that velocity behind the strike, and so when I added that detachable plate holder, that was kind of more the reason behind that, because I was like, I need to add a way to be able to add a little bit more weight on this thing and make it a little bit more heavier. And so that kind of led to that idea. And then the more I started working with it, just the more advanced it started to become. And then I started seeing different components, like even being able to utilize it as a sled. And it's one of those things that you really have to just check us out on our website, and you really have to go to the Instagram page, because honestly, in a short amount of time, I can't do it justice. But I will show it real quick just so everybody can see it. Give me 1 second. I'm coming.
And this is how I met Coach. Was at the AFCA convention. He had a booth there with the whole wheel.
So that's the whole wheel, made of a durable U-pole texture, so you got great grip on it. And again, it's only 13 pounds with the detachable plate holder attached to it. So again, this is what that looks like. And again, this is one of the most durable and universal tools that you can be able to incorporate into your program. And if you want to see anything about it, again, it's on our website. You can give me a call, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. But the AFCA, I know that's what you was talking about right there. That we had a great time. It was a unique experience for me, because a year ago I was at the one in San Antonio, and I went down there. Me and my dad. My dad goes a lot of places with me, especially when we're doing stuff with the business. And I remember going down to San Antonio, and I didn't get a booth. That was my first time going to one that was out of town. And I didn't get a booth, but I brought the wheel. And I had a red wheel at that time, just because I do have the option to be able to make them in colors. And so I put a red wheel on a black bag, and I was walking around the convention in San Antonio. Now, at that time, the wheel was a little heavy. I had re-engineered it. But at the time, that wheel was a little bit heavier, so that was a little bit of a challenge to walk around all day with that thing. But I remember walking around the convention, seeing all those coaches. I told my dad, I said, next year, I'm going to have a booth at the convention. And then they had this deal on the turf that they call skills and drills. And I go over there, and I'm listening to a few coaches present. And they give us some good stuff, some good pointers, some great drills. And I was like, hey, I feel like I can add just as much value to this. And so I went over to the guy and said, hey, man, I don't know if you guys got all your speakers for today, but I'd love to present if I could. He said, hey, man, we already had this book like months in advance, but, there's nothing I can really do for you. I said, I said, you sure, man? You don't think nobody gonna cancel? And every time somebody would finish a presentation, I'd be standing there like, hey, just let you know, I'm still here if you want to kill. And all there was their little intermission time. But I told my dad then, I said, next year we're going to be presenting on the turf. And I said, we're going to get a booth. And so next year was this year. And so to be able to come back and to be able to have a booth at the convention, being able to show off all the amazing things that we bring to the table in the whole family, and to be able to present on the turf, it was special. It was definitely a lot of coaches came up and said positive things about the fact that they thought it was a really good presentation. And I was just glad that they kind of saw some value in it. David Deal, the longtime New York Giant, came up to me afterwards. And, he's in a lot slimmer form nowadays. So he comes up. He was in Memphis. He had on his gear. He said, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing good." He said, "Man, I remember meeting you years ago at McNally's camp, so at the FBU camp." I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Man, how you doing?" So we talked for a little bit, just kind of chopping it up, and he was able to, share that respect for what I do in the craft. And so for me as a guy that did it from that reason to begin with, to be able to make the connections, to be able to add a value to the game that has given so much to me, to be able to sit in the room with your peers and to be able to have conversations with guys that do it on a high level and who've done it on a high level, to have a respect for how you teach it, how you do what you do. It makes me proud to be able to be a part of something so special. So it's not about me. The ultimate vision is about what we are here to do for our communities. And when I say we, I'm talking about everybody involved in the whole family, right? From the athletes to the support people to me. We are all out here pushing the agenda of bettering each other's lives, making an impact in our communities, doing stuff the right way, having a way of integrity about how you move, performing at a high level, being the best version of yourself, and ultimately believing in what you believe in and keeping your faith strong, right? And I push that to my kids. Anybody that I work with, I'm a little biased in the regard that I pray over my guys, man. I literally do before we get in the lab. You know what I mean? Like that might be kind of weird to some people, but I know that they have a lot on their plates, and not just in football, but in life. And you just want to make sure that the greatest thing that you taught them was more than a skill. You just want to make sure that in some type of fashion, you was able to impact them in a way that went beyond the game. Like, yeah, the game brings us together with our passion of it, but it should be about the purpose of doing more for people and to be able to really enrich somebody's life. And so I think that that's the thing that obviously motivates me, and that's the thing that gives me the passion behind what I do.
We spent a lot of time talking about that in the podcast. Like our thing is, like, we want to do three things in our football program. First, we want to change lives. Two, we want to help get them to the next level, whatever that means. And the third thing is we want to build champions for life. So, like, who are the coaches that helped change your life? I know you talked about Coach Strollo, and
I'm glad you asked me that. That answer would honestly have to go back to the foundation. Number one, my dad was one of my first coaches. He instilled a strong work ethic in me in terms of standing for something, working hard to get what you have, believing in the process of what you got to do to get where you want to be, and never allowing me to create a giving up or quit mentality. It just wasn't allowed. And in a loving way, you know what I mean? And not in like a demeaning type of way. I really thought highly of my dad just because of how he was on me. And it wasn't because he was the nicest at times when it came to being a coach, but it was how he taught me to respect the game. If you go do it, you got to do it to the best of your ability. We ain't going to come out here and play around with it. If you go play a sport, you go hard at it, whatever sport it is. I played soccer, I played baseball, played basketball, and all those things kind of instilled in me that mentality that was going to be needed. And then obviously it would have to go to my high school coaching staff. I mean, I can't even tell you. In terms of my life, I've had they've had such a profound impact on my development from a fundamental standpoint. And I mean that because of the mentality, man. If nothing, my coaches, and I'm just summing all of them and putting them in this one category, but if they didn't teach us nothing, they taught us about the importance of work ethic and toughness and grit and believing in yourself and getting through what you don't think you can. They would push you to such a limit that you didn't think you would make it. And when you would almost be amazed. Like, man, we just made it through that type of day. You know what I mean? Like, you looking back on it and the day was tough. You know what I'm saying? And you sitting there saying to yourself, like, whew, that was tough, but man, we made it. And like, we all go back and do this again tomorrow, and we just stuck together. You know what I mean? And that brotherhood is what initially sold me on the sport, because I knew that was something that I always liked. I like being around the boys, playing the games with the boys. The boys, like that was always my thing. I always have been about the team. And so being a part of a team gave me that sense of pride, gave me that responsibility, gave me that ability to be a leader. And I've always found myself in positions where I was like a captain. You know what I mean? And I just think that's just honestly because of the gift, the grace of God just put that on me. But it's been orchestrated for a long time, and it's really about just doing your part and doing your part. And, I can go on and on about that.
Yeah, Matt Baker, who I grew up with, he said, anything can save a kid. Great deal, guys. So he's very happy that we're doing this. And I mean, offensive line has got to be the hardest position to coach. I mean, you got 5 guys and you got to get them working as one. But I'd say probably the easiest part of it is how unselfish most offensive linemen are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes with the trade. You know, I mean, if you're gonna play this deal and be good at it, you're gonna have to get excited about the celebrating the accomplishments of others, because that's all you're gonna see anyway. If you're doing it at a high level, people are getting celebrated. Quarterbacks getting celebrated. Your running backs getting celebrated. Your receivers getting celebrated, and they're not necessarily just screaming, "O line, O line, O line." And so you learn very early on is that this has to be an unsung hero type of position. This has to be I'm cool with knowing that in the locker room, those guys respect me for what I do for this team. I'm cool with knowing that my teammates vote me as a captain because they respect how I handle my business. Those are the things you have to pride yourself on as an offensive lineman. You're trying to get to your recognition is stuff like being a captain, being awarded to be represented as a leader on your team. Those like accomplishments and responsibilities, those are the ones that are special, man. You know what I mean? And I remember those moments for me. Like, again, I was blessed and fortunate to be a 2-year captain at Elon. And I mean, it was something that I really was proud of, because it showed how your peers and your coaches recognize your works and your efforts. Not to say you were perfect, but it was just to be able to say that, hey, I'm helping try to set the standard. I'm helping try to do what's right. I'm helping try to help us get to where we need to get to accomplish our goals. I'm trying to be a part of the solution, not the problem.
When a coach is picking captains, should they take into account the grades of the kid, the discipline of a kid, the going to the workouts, never being late? What are some things that coaches, because you were a 2-year captain, what are some things coaches should be looking for when they pick their captains?
I think it definitely has. When you're looking at a captain, number one, you gotta look at the guys who have the players' respect. Like, who are the guys that either do such outstanding job of doing their job that they don't have to talk, to where people just recognize their body of work so much, or being the guy that vocally can speak up and the other guys respect it. But you have to look at that first. Like, you have to look at the personality of the team. And then that comes back into being tied into some type of leadership council as well, right? As a coach, right? If I'm a head coach, having some type of leadership council is going to help me identify some of those alpha males on my team. And then amongst that group, you can start to kind of formulate, what that should look like. But for me, it's a combination of all of it. When you're talking about the academic piece, when you're talking about the trustworthy piece, when you're talking about the production on the field piece, obviously we need the production on the field. But I think that the more specific you can get, the higher level of players that you have at that point. Because now you can get that much more detail in trying to make that factor, you know what I mean, like that.
If there's a young coach or a rec coach or a player out there that should be studying an offensive tackle and maybe an offensive guard and offensive center, you can pick three in pro football. Who are the three, the tackle, guard, and center, that they should be looking at film?
I'll make it simple. Wayne Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Landon Dickerson. The three Pro Bowlers on the Eagles offensive line.
Man, they're nasty.
You can see the bit. I don't even want to talk too much because I've been and gave up some of my secrets and stuff I'll be looking at. But when I talk about looking at ways to advance the position, looking at a guy like Kelsey, man, he can show you some creative ways of doing things, man. If you got a guy that's that athletic, that strong, man, he can play for you. And he can do some special things. And then when you got a guy like Landon Dickerson, who can be a technically sound guy, but still a bruiser too. He has like the best of both worlds. He's obviously an Alabama guy. I'm a little biased because I'm an Alabama fan. But I respect the game down there. But then you look at Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, you're taller, leaner, more offensive tackle, not super fat, really good body build. You're looking at a guy who does some really great things athletically that shows you kind of the future of the game. Again, he's that old power forward. So it's a new athletic tackle that is in the game that's going to be the tackle of the future. And Lane shows you a lot of the things that can really be continue to be expanded upon just in terms of what tackles can do. Because the way they're recruiting them anyway, they'll be more looking like him than they'll look like anybody else anyway in the next few years. They're looking for them leaner, more athletic guys on the edge.
Yeah, Carl Malone's, I mean, they're just like, man, they're athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's watching the clinic, Coach, what would you like to leave them with, or how they can get in touch with you? I know you already said at the bottom of the screen it's got all your contact information, but what would you like to leave the clinic with? I appreciate you. I mean, Coach came on, I hit him up, and boom. I said, you want to do it tonight?
Yeah.
He said, boom.
Yeah.
He would do it, man.
You got to be ready to move on stuff. So,
man, you ready, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody who's able to tune in tonight. Hopefully you got a few nuggets out of that. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out, like I said, at wholebuilt.com. You can fill out information there. If you need to reach out to me directly, my cell phone number is 704-307-1761. Once again, that's Coach Harrison. And again, on the Instagram, it's at Whole 2017. And we also have a page for the Whole Wheel, which is the Whole Wheel. So definitely reach out. Like I said, I appreciate your time. Get a chance, go get your hands on the all new Whole Wheel. It's in stores right now. Again, we can get it out to you 4 weeks or less. Make sure you have everything you need. But I promise you this, it's the one tool that you want to have in your toolbox. The most versatile and innovative tool in the industry.
Coach,
guaranteed to improve your performance.
We might have our first sponsor, Coach. You send me one of those, I'll put a Whole Wheel.
Yes, sir.
Logo up there, Coach.
Yes, sir.
That'll look good.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I appreciate you coming out tonight and spending time with the clinic. We'll have you back, Coach.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good one.